It's an honor to be here. I want to first thank Mary and thank Frank Fetchit for having us here, and to Stephanie for all that you do and all the things that Voices does for the community every day, all year, for 23 years. So thank you very much for that and for those efforts. I'm here, as you heard today, with one of my Deputy Special Masters, Nicole P. Smith, who was appointed a year ago in September. And if you notice, there's a missing chair. It will eventually be filled. But the other Deputy Special Master with whom so many of you are familiar is Stephanie Langsam. And unfortunately, she will not be able to join us today. She is on the stream watching, but she wanted to just make sure that I share her greetings and to let you know that she is holding all of you in her hearts, as always. So before we go into updates, of which we have a good number, and Nicole and I are going to I'll start, she'll go, and then I'll come back again and talk to you. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the significance of today and the impact that it has on this, as Stephanie said, this federal program, and for the people who work at this federal program. Every day, and especially today, we honor the strength and resilience of the victims, the families, survivors, the community, and really, to some extent, all of us, this country and abroad, and the changes that happen as a result of the cowardly, horrendous actions of the terrorists on September 11th. As we know, their impacts continue, and the health and well-being of many folks continue to be impacted by the events of that day. But it is an inspiration to the VCF, and it inspires our staff, who, by the way, are pretty amazing. All of whom are, I feel confident to say, are mission-driven and committed every day to doing what they can to process the claims that come before them fairly, accurately, and as quickly as they can. We know there's a sense of profound loss. There's also, as we heard here, and we hear it, Voices, a sense of hope, because that's what carries us on, and we know how important it is. I was going to say this for last, but as I sat here this morning and really thought about it, there was a piece that we hadn't prepared. My staff is going to lose their minds. There's something we hadn't talked about and prepared to tell you about today, but I'm going to take a moment just because I think it's relevant to everything that's happening here. When I came on and started to be the head of the VCF and to lead the amazing organization, as I've heard you here, you've heard from them all these years coming here, they're really extraordinary. The people that work there are extraordinary. And they did a lot to build resilience at the organization and to make sure that they were taking good care of all that hardworking staff. But when I came in, I knew there was more that we could do, and I knew there was more that we can always do for our claimants. And so we're on the path to making the VCF a fully trauma-informed organization, and we are taking the steps that are necessary to do that, both in training for all of our staff, having sessions where our staff provides feedback, and baking in those things so that our staff is more responsive to the claimants, understands the nature of trauma, and then understands also the impact that it has on themselves, and give them the tools and the resources they need to handle these claims. Our staff turns over. We have people been there a long time, like Nicole and Stephanie Langsam and others, but we also have some young staff and some new staff, and so we want to make sure that we take care of them as well. It is, I'm getting back on track, it is an honor to lead this team going forward and to really think about every day how we can do more. I'm just going to do a couple of stats for you. There's always a lot of them, and there's a lot of them on our website, so make sure you go and take a look if you want to know them. I'm going to highlight a few. So in 2023, the VCF decided more claims and issued more award dollars than it had in any previous year. We awarded over $1.8 billion in 2023, and here in 2024, we are on track to surpass that number. And people are like, well, how did you do that? We are made some really big policy changes, and Nicole is going to talk about some of those things. We also streamlined some of our processes inside, and we also did more buckling down and motivation to move those claims as quickly as we can. So Thank you. I'm going to be back. I have some more things to speak with you about. And at this moment, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole for some policy updates. Nicole.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. So as I have been introduced, I'm Nicole P. Smith, Deputy Special Master. And last year, I actually introduced myself as the newest Deputy Special Master at this session. So it's good to see you a year later. It's been a very busy year at the VCF, as Allison has alluded to, and I am very excited to share some of our policy updates. But before I do, I want to take a moment to recognize the wonderful team that props us up here. We have people that show up day in and day out, people that showed up every day during the pandemic, and people have come back after the pandemic. They process the hard copy mail, they answer the helpline calls, they review claim submissions to make sure we have our minimally required documents. They conduct substantive review of the claims, they make recommendations to the special master. They produce correspondence, schedule, support, and conduct hearings. They do quality checks, they process payments and everything in between. So I want to say thank you to not only our staff in the room, but any of our team members that happen to be watching us streaming, and hello, Stephanie. So on to the policy updates. For those of you that have worked with the VCF over the years, you know that when we make policy updates, they apply going forward. So that means any pending claims that we haven't already decided, we'll take a look at those claims under any policy updates. And so first off, I want to let you guys know that under the Special Master authority to issue non-economic loss awards above the statutory caps in special circumstances, we have removed the requirement that requests for this review are made only on appeal. So that means that we are now looking at special circumstances on initial review and also on amendment. You no longer have to go to an appeal to argue your case for those claims. We are in the process of updating our policies and procedures to reflect this change. So if you go to our website today, it'll still say that you need to file an appeal, but I'm letting you know right here, and you can quote me, you do not have to file an appeal to make that request. I also wanted to mention that we updated our work life expectancy from age 65 to 70. We recognize now in 2024 that more and more people are working beyond age 65. And so we wanted to make sure our policies reflect that. And that was one of the major things that Allison wanted to make sure our staff knows, that people are still showing up at 65, 66, 67, et cetera, et cetera. So we've updated that. Prior to that change, we typically did not award lost earnings if a victim came to the fund and they were older than 65 at time of disability or death. So that's going to be a significant change for a lot of people. We also updated the annual gross income cap. We increased it from $200,000 to $255,610 to account for inflation. Now, the previous limit of $200,000, that was established by Congress back in 2015 when we were reauthorized. And it also gave the Special Master authority to increase the amount. And so that was one of the things that Allison did pretty soon after she joined, looked at that to say, hey, $200,000 in 2015 is different than $200,000 in 2023, 2024. And as you can see, $255,610 is a significant increase. And just again to reiterate, these policy changes will apply to claims that we have not yet decided. And so if your claim has already been decided under old policies, you will not be able to appeal or get us to reopen your claim under a new policy. And finally, the last policy update I wanted to highlight went into effect shortly after last year's symposium. In an ongoing effort to reduce the overall time frame for claims processing and of course getting awards paid to claimants quicker, we changed our policy for those who appeal their award. So effective September 2023, all claims move into payment processing 1 business day from the date of the award letter. Prior to that change, we would wait the 30-day appeal period before we would start processing payments. And so again, that's a significant change. Anyone that wants to appeal their compensation award still has that right. They just don't have to wait until the appeal process has run its course before they're paid. They're paid immediately, even while their appeal is pending. And so with that, I want to turn it back over to Allison. And I thank you all for all the work that you continue to do on behalf of this amazing community. And for those of you that are suffering from illnesses, if you have not already registered with the VCF, we implore you to do so. vcf.gov, and you can find information there. If you want to call our wonderful helpline, they're open 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. It is 1-855-885-1555, and we have information cards with that information for you as well. Okay, thank you.
Today about just how Voices has been involved. And since John is here now, it's actually a good time to sort of tell this story for people who haven't heard it. Back in 2019, when we were all down in DC, fighting for the continuation and reauthorization of the VCF and permanent authorization of it, Mary was there with us, and we were out in front of the senator's office about to go in, and we were trying to figure out exactly what was going to be said and how it was going to be handled. And I tell this story all the time because it was such a poignant moment of a woman who lost a child in the collapse. And she walked in, and her exact words were, "You have to do this for them. They brought my son home." I tell that story, unfortunately, more than I like to tell, because when I speak to people who have lost a loved one as a result of the 9/11 illness, and they're either a responder, especially the responder, I explain to them, this is what the people think about you that you've never met and you'll never have an opportunity to meet, and that they think about your loved ones. Because that is really what it was all about. It was all about taking care of people. In that same vein, what we got into there was not only the responders, but it was the survivor community. And the survivor community became, as John knows, a big piece of 2019. And being able to say, hey, these are the people who went back to work, they went back to school, they showed the rest of the world we weren't going to back down to an act of terrorism. They were going to go back. Whether they were kids who graduated from high school, from college, who were moving on, whether they were people who were moving up in high school, people went back to school, they went back to work, and this is what they did all the time. Now, what you're going to hear now from this panel are a group of people who go back to that time period, some of whom were there at 9/11 on ground zero, some of whom were working in the area, some of whom had been working on prior events and other issues that were related to terrorism, and how it continued on, whether the special master's office had already been in place. It's a group of people that can answer questions. The panel that happened before was all about a litigation, all about a very high-level adversarial type of an event. Now, the special master, you just saw something that's classic trial tactics, which is your entire team turns around and says, wait, that's not the closing argument. That's not the one we worked on. And they stand up. But it's a group of people up here that, yes, you've got state, federal, you've got private attorneys, you have people who are here. But we all deal with the same things. And it's not an adversarial environment. And it is so unique. And it's a group of people that, when they introduce themselves, have their own different experiences. And I did want to get that first part out because it's very important to understand exactly what Voices does and continues to do here. And that story sticks with me forever because it is just so true. It's been a driving force. You know, you have John, who's a driving force as far as the things that have gone on in his life and what's pushed him forward, and all the times he's been to DC. And it's a collaboration for everybody. So with that, I want to introduce the panel that we have up here. We have Joe Cavalcante, who's from New York State Workers' Comp. We have Noah Krasleski from Crenler & Crenler, and we have Michael Barish from Barish & Gary. So just to give an opportunity for everybody to sort of introduce themselves and maybe give a little bit of their own experience with 9/11. Joe, if we could start with you.
My own experience with 9/11?
Yep.
Oh.
And who you are.
So, okay.
Other than the glowing man up there.
I work for the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. I'm appointed by the governor to be the ombudsman and advocate for injured workers. That means my primary charge is to care about the health of the system and the sanctity of the system, and I have a few things to do within the World Trade Center community along those ends for certain. I will be speaking later on about the comp benefit and some steps that you can take. And also, we do have one or two things to say about community as well that I think might lift everyone's spirits if so needed.
Noah?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Noah Kushlevsky. I'm a partner at the law firm of Kreindler & Kreindler. My firm was involved in the first victim compensation fund. From 2001 through 2004, we represented hundreds of families who lost loved ones in the towers. When the Victim Compensation Fund reopened, we got involved immediately, and we currently represent a number of people who have become sick in the aftermath of 9/11. My firm is also taking a lead role, one of the firms taking a lead role in the terror litigation against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So it's safe to say that I have lived the life of the World Trade Center disaster for the past 23 years. I do want to take 1 minute to make a few comments about Allison and Nicole, the Special Master's Office. Because if anybody thinks that it's easy, that their job is easy and that they're administering a structured program, nothing could be further from the truth. Their task, and one that they have done incredibly well, as have the past deputy special masters and special masters, is to help people, is to often think outside the box and to make decisions that change people's lives for the better. And the reason that I say this is because I recently had a claim that I was convinced would go nowhere, because if you look within the strict structure of the VCF, it was a very challenging claim. We had an appeal where a gentleman was in bed, literally dying as his hearing was being conducted. And he had a small child and a spouse at home, and it was an extremely difficult claim which required the Special Master's Office to really think outside the box and find a way within the rules, because they are governed by fairly stringent rules, regulations, and statutes, to make something work, and they did so. And I have to tell you that the decision that came into our office literally brought tears to the eyes of people on my staff. So I just wanted to recognize that, because a lot of people think that it's a structured thing, but it really is a very dynamic program which does its best to do the best for the people that need it the most. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And the attorney that handled that's here as well.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Of course.
Michael?
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Barish. Like Noah, I've been doing this since the day this happened. Before 9/11, my law firm represented injured firefighters and cops. And then, of course, we lost so many clients that day, so many friends that day. And I was there watching dozens of people jumping and just not able to understand what I was seeing. So we finally returned to work like so many other companies and people when they told us the air was safe to breathe. It was not, but we thought we were doing the right thing. And over the years, Jimmy Zadroga was my client, so we fought very hard to get the city to recognize his death from pulmonary fibrosis due to the carcinogens they found on his autopsy in his lung tissue, which if he had it in his lung tissue, so do all of we. So over the years, this has become personal, because many of the people in my firm who work for me have cancer. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. My office, as I said, is just 2 blocks from here. I lost 2 paralegals due to their cancer, and a couple of dozen people in my firm are the children of first responders who have passed away. So every day we're dealing with people and clients who are passing away, and I want to echo something that Noah just said, which is this is not like litigation you see on TV. This is non-adversarial. Believe me when I say the Victim Compensation Fund, lawyers and special masters, they want to help you. They want to give you an award if you can just prove that you were there. And Allison, you said something which we say every day to our clients when we're trying to convince them to sign up and spread the word to those who haven't signed up. And we always ask why. And there were 2 things that you didn't mention, which we always find is true. Somebody says to me, oh, my mother had breast cancer. My cancer couldn't be related. I was only living downtown. And there's this presumption linking what is now 69 cancers and many respiratory illnesses. You only have to prove you were there and that you got cancer after a certain amount of time. So don't let that be the reason why you don't apply. And secondly, don't feel guilty about applying, which is what a lot of the survivors tell me. And I tell them, fine, give the money away to charity. That's what so many other people do. So I urge you to do what Allison said, spread the word. It's, as John Stewart said down in Washington, access what you're entitled to.
Thank you, Michael. For myself, I'm an attorney. I have my own firm, Turk&Ethan McCauley. I'm a retired police officer from New York City. I was at Ground Zero as a responder myself, and the work is very personal. The point you'll hear from everybody up here, from the special masters, from the attorneys, is that it is personal. It is very, very rare. Plenty of attorneys talk about the work in their personal. There's nothing else like this. Everybody else will agree with this. You've got a special master who was trying homicide cases for the Manhattan DA's office and then took on things even above and beyond that. The deputy special master with a tremendous amount of experience, two very well-seasoned trial attorneys that are sitting over there, as well as somebody who's been dealing with workers' compensation issues for an entire career. And myself going from the extremes from paramedic to a police officer to an attorney. There's nothing else like this. Michael's associates and partners that are here will also say the same thing. We get on the phone with each other to help each other. It is non-adversarial. The one thing I'll point out, and I make the joke about this, about adversarial, and Noah and I were talking about it earlier, is we'll get to what happens with presence and other things. If it's adversarial, and I'm going to just say this, the VCF's not sending you a letter if it's adversarial. You're getting a knock on the front door by the FBI or another federal agency. So non-adversarial, like there's letters that come out there, right? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot for a specific case, but if you get a letter in the mail from the VCF and it's asking for something, it's not, believe it or not, it is non-adversarial. And there are adversarial times. And you know what, maybe that's the way it should be. To come back to the story with Mary now, as far as the people who were down there and DCing what we were doing, that was about not only the responders, but also the survivors. That's a very important community of people that we want to touch upon today. When we were in DC and down there, it's a community of people that sometimes maybe didn't realize they were eligible. So if you can, Special Master, could you explain just how the VCF works with respect to treating the two groups differently? Do you treat them differently?
We treat them exactly the same. It's the same claim form. People have to provide the same information. We have some statistics, kind of, that we can use to tell you about who's applied and who we've given funding to. But filing claims for survivors is the same. And in fact, they're the rising amount. They have not surpassed the number of responders, but they are the rising amount of claims that we are receiving.
Noah, if I could turn to you as far as the experiences that you've had with the survivor community, and I don't want to say difficulties, but the areas that you find that either convincing them that they are eligible for these cases to be in there. Could you take us through that?
Well, I think step one, which has already been alluded to, is that it's still shocking to me, given the number of television commercials and Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Google ads that come up, that there are still a tremendous number of people that have not a single clue that they have a potential claim. And at this point, I kind of find it shocking. Attorney advertising has always been, to me, distasteful. But what I learned in getting involved with the downtown community is that it really is the most effective way of informing people that they have a potential claim. So all of us that do this work have dived into that, 100%. For two reasons. We want to help people. We want three reasons. We want to help people, we want to inform people, and we want to run a law firm. But the challenges that are faced by the people that are unaware that they have a claim really all comes down primarily to proof of presence. Because the people that don't know that they have a claim were likely, I don't want to say transient in the area, but have been removed from the area for a long time. They weren't down there for a period of time. They might have lived down there for a period of time. We have clients who exited the subway because the subway stopped. They were going from point A to point B. They got out at point point 5 because they couldn't go any further and got stuck there and didn't know a single person. So a lot of these people think that they can't prove that they were there. I think that's a big issue. And a lot of them are unaware that they have a claim. Our instruction, our advice to them is let us worry about proving that you were there. Let us take on that responsibility. Let us do the work that you're hiring us to do so that we can make a colorable claim on their behalf. And sort of getting back to something that you said, Matt, about the knock on the door. You know, there's a VCF process, and part of that process is a claim denial, which gives you the right to an appeal. But if this was such an adversarial process, as you said, when you get that denial in the mail, all that means is, let's go to a hearing, and let's hear from you and hear from your witnesses so that we can make a better record of your presence down there and thus approve your claim. If they didn't think people think that the denial letter is, they don't believe you were down there. And like you said, if they didn't believe you were down there, it ain't a letter that's coming in the mail. So, you know, the challenges that I am describing and the challenges that we all see are challenges that get greater with every day that passes because the availability of witnesses and evidence diminishes over time. Record retention policies. I knew one guy that I was down there with, but he passed away. You know, all of those things are tremendous challenges.
Michael, I'm going to come back to you in a second for talk about compensation and the survivor community. But if I can, to Nicole, the special master, Noah hit on a point about appeals. And let's just talk about presence appeals for a moment. I think a lot of them, you do have the survivors, but also the responders. In your own language, whoever wants to take the question, how is that process, and what is your mindset behind the process when they're going through it?
I'm going to let Nicole answer that because she actually used to be one of our hearing officers. I review every appeal, by the way, that comes across my desk. And but I'm not the one who's in the hearings, and Nicole has been, so I'll let her tell you about it.
Thank you. So as Noah said, a denial letter from the VCF is not us saying that we don't believe that you were there. It simply means we don't have the documentation that we require as a federal program to deem you eligible for compensation. And so we have set up an appeals process. You receive a letter, you have 30 days to respond to say, yes, I would like to exercise my right to come in for a hearing. And you let us know that you respond to that letter. If you are represented by an attorney, your attorney will coordinate with the VCF, with some of our staff that are in the room, to get you scheduled for that hearing. If you are going through our process without an attorney, which having an attorney is not required, then you will hear from our helpline or someone from our staff that will coordinate with you to find a date where you can come in either in person, or we're also doing hearings virtually by Zoom. We have in-person hearings in Washington, DC, and also in New York City in our offices here. And the process is non-adversarial. You come into a conference room, you sit across the table from someone like myself, some of our other senior attorneys, and we try to make it as conversational as we can. We ask some questions, we hear your story. We do have a court reporter because we need a transcript for Allison because she does review all appeals to make the final decision. And that's the only official record of the hearing. It's that transcript. One of the other things that we've done is we make those transcripts available on our online system. So if you've had a hearing after January of 2024, your hearing transcript will be available for you to review yourself online. If you had a hearing before January of 2024, you can call our helpline or contact our law firm liaisons, and we can make it visible for you as well. But once you have your hearing, you can share your story, we can ask questions, we can fill in those blanks that the documentation that you provided just couldn't do. And oftentimes we find that gets you over the hump of proving that you were present.
Thank you. To highlight that, is it fair to say that you've had appeals where somebody was in Lower Manhattan that had no actual physical witness that was with them that have been approved?
Yes.
As far as where people were trying to figure out, well, nobody saw me there, so they're just not going to believe me. You have other areas or other aspects of evidence that they can be brought in, correct? Like maybe other people that saw you when you got home that day, or anything.
Yes. So we, of course, we want documentation. So we look for primary proof of presence. So if you were employed in one of our covered areas, we want proof that you were employed and proof that you actually showed up to work during the time frame. If you were not employed and you were volunteer, then you can go to your volunteer agency and they can write you a letter to say, hey, you know, Allison was a volunteer, this is where she was, these are the dates that she was there, and this is the type of activity she was involved in for volunteer purposes. If you cannot get primary evidence of your presence, then you can find your friends that you volunteered with, co-workers that you worked with, and have them fill out a witness presence statement, which is our answer to the affidavits that we used to receive that didn't quite give us the details that we needed. So if you fill out a witness presence statement for a colleague or a friend, if you answer all of those questions, that should give us the detail that we need. But even still, you know, there may be some inconsistencies that we see across all of the documentation that we see, and we want to have a conversation with you. And the way that we can have the conversation with you on the record is at an appeal hearing. And so, you know, some people don't have people that they can reach out to, and we have received letters that say, you know, I've tried, you know, I reached out to my network, my colleagues are no longer in the area, we didn't keep up, or unfortunately people have passed away. And so you can also come in for a hearing and tell your story on the record. We can have a conversation, and oftentimes, again, that's enough for us to find that you were in prison.
Thank you.
But if you go to a hearing, you better have exhausted every avenue of evidence before showing up at the hearing, because there's nothing worse than having a hearing officer ask a question and you, like, did you try calling so-and-so?
Steve was with me.
So-and-so, and you have to, and you say no. That's the worst feeling in the world.
Right.
So once you've exhausted every avenue of evidence, that's when you go to a hearing.
Michael, somebody, I'm going to come back to the compensation questions, like, but somebody whose office sits right in the zone. Some of the things that you've seen both in your own building and in other areas with respect to the presence issues that you see.
Well, I just want to echo something that Allison was talking about, which is the difference between the survivors and the responders. The unions did a great job educating the cops, the firefighters, the sanitation workers, in many cases, the construction workers. So we found something like over 85% of responders are in the program. But because of the differences where survivors actually have to have a physical or mental illness to get in, less than 10% of the survivors, like the people in my office building, are in. I do think it's important though, and this is something also that a lot of people aren't aware of. When Rupa Bhattacharya was the special master, she, you, Nicole, and Stephanie, they came up with an incredible, compassionate, terminal expedite program. So don't let the fact that your spouse just got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer prevent you from enrolling or registering. You may not have enough time for your spouse to get all the way through the health program, because that can take a long time. But the special master has the right to say, come directly to the Victim Compensation Fund. And I can tell you, and this is a question I get asked by reporters more than anything else, how do you deal with the fact that so many of your clients are dying every single day? And it's horrible, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it is so gratifying to have the special master say, we will take this case immediately, and we've seen dozens of people get awards within a month. And people should know that this terminal expedite program exists. So Stephanie, you're out there, thank you very much. Rupa, of course, and Nicole. I mean, that's really made a huge difference to so many people.
Sure. Absolutely. Hi, I'm a 9/11 family member. I'm a 9/11 family member. Lost my wife, and I worked on the Victim Compensation Fund back in 2002 and 2003 to get the special master to change the way he ran it. And it turned it into a highly successful program. I live in Lower Manhattan, live in Greenwich Village. I eat frequently at an Italian restaurant on Bleecker, on McDougal Street. I can't tell you how many people have come and said they had no idea. I mean, we're just sitting and talking, and we are eating dinner at the bar, someplace, in a nice restaurant, even a modestly priced restaurant. We get talking in New York City, okay? And by the way, hello, Allison. I think you know who I am. Does the address 720?
Yes, it does.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I went to college with her brother. We pledged the fraternity together 50 years ago. This is strictly by accident. Strictly. And I already sent Mark a picture of you.
Good.
Anyway, I do run into a lot of people. You ask each other, what do you do? Are you married? Da, 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 that kind of thing. And it always ends up in saying, yeah, I lost my wife in the World Trade Center. And that opens up a conversation. And there's two things that I'd like to add to this, please, if I may. Number one, its existence. They don't even know its existence still. Because anytime you have an ad that comes on television that has anything that smacks of a lawyer, people just turn it off in their minds. Number two, people have no idea. They have no idea that they are eligible for anything that killed the people down there. Nothing. They have no, and I have to sit there and explain to them, and they are in total denial. Absolute denial. Number three, they have no idea what to do about it. And so, having worked with the folks where Noah works at Kreindler, and we had dinner the other night together, heck, quite accidentally. It's amazing how often it happens. So what I can say is this. The Victim Compensation Fund, if you have a gut fear of dealing with an attorney, throw that away. There is no fear to be had. When they talk about, what's the word you use? No,
Adversarial.
thank you. Non-adversarial approach. That's a fancy lawyer term, meaning that no one's going to try to keep you from getting it. You may be the only person who is keeping yourself from getting it. Okay? Throw the fear away. There's no magic wand that the VCF can do to make you healthy. Or future health, shall we say. And no, there's not a price for life. Okay? There's no value on life. All you can do is value what it would cost you to go to the doctor, to go to the hospital, for treatment, anything like that. It's a compensation plan for lost income, lost future income. Okay? And I'm only saying this, and I'm saying this because I've seen it over and over and over again. 1 block north of Houston Street, the guy's telling me he's got a picture of the dust on his porch in the backyard. I mean, I know the plane that hit my wife's office flew right over our apartment. And yellow. There was all kinds of yellow dust on my white car that was on the street. I know it was there. Fortunately, I have not gotten it. All I'm saying to you is you have a friend up there. Okay? You have a friend up there. Have no fear. They will help you. They will work you through it. And I just want you to do it. Thanks.
Matt McCauley.
Turn back.
Matt, over here.
Yeah,
Hi.
sorry.
I know it's unusual coming from over here. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Wait. There's still somebody walking around.
What did I do wrong? I would just like to echo for a moment what the special master was saying about everyone being an ambassador, because I do not technically have a role in the Victim Comp Fund. I technically don't have a role with the World Trade Center Health programs, but everybody talks about community, and yes, we do all know each other. We do all work together as we can. A few years ago, there was a pocket of workers stunningly close to where we are sitting right now who qualified for all these services we all discuss, and they didn't know it. And we found it out because we just asked. Where were you at that time? Stunningly close to where we're sitting right now. So if you need a success story for being an ambassador, I think that's at least one.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, you brought up a good point about as far as exchanging information or sharing information. With those who are coming to you under the workers' compensation umbrella, how are they getting to you as far as whether it's through the World Trade Center Health Program, through other people that are sending information up to you? Could you explain how they come in contact with you?
Yes, thank you. That's a really interesting story. If I could tell you a story for a moment, I'll do my benefits later. But there was an instance recently, within the last 12 months, wherein I was contacted by, we'll call her Stephanie, because that's her name. And she works at Voices of 9/11, Voices Center of Resilience.
Gee, where's that place?
Right? What a great bunch of people. You have to meet them. So she contacted me because she was aware of a man who lived in a country in Africa. I'm going to respect some privacy boundaries here, okay? But
not a lot.
Not a lot. But Africa's still a big continent. So he lived there. His brother was lost on September 11, and the office of the New York City Medical Examiner identified his remains 21 years later. Yes, that was quite an achievement. And so he had come to Stephanie and was wondering what to do. And Stephanie had some interactions with the Victim Compensation Fund, and then it came over to me with the contact info for the man in Africa. And I had to interact with the Office of the Medical Examiner because in my system, there's a funeral memorial benefit. There is money for funeral memorial, and this man's remains, they have to get from New Jersey to this country in Africa. And so they could really use it. So we all spoke to exchange the necessary information because I have phone numbers of people at the Victim Comp Fund. I have Mr. Barish's, Noah's, Mr. McCauley's, and their staff, and they know me. Matt and I have talked on a Sunday, more than once. So anyway, the point of this story is that we actually did get this man the benefit for the funeral. I had to deal with an insurance company. The insurance company wanted to litigate it and use the adversarial route. So I went to the manager of the manager, and now all of a sudden it's not adversarial. And so we got the man a check, and then we found out that he can't cash an American check in that country in Africa. So they did an electronic transfer of funds, which was very unusual, but this is the World Trade Center. So some people still get it. So yes, you never know where something's going to come from, but if you work in the community long enough, if you are collegial enough and cooperative enough and you care enough, I think people notice and they will take you seriously. And it's like I say, It's the World Trade Center. If you can't extend yourself for this community, then just go live in an igloo somewhere. That's me.
Putting the igloo aside, unless it's in another country, Michael, this is a great segue into residency, as far as whether you have to be a resident of New York City, New York State, or the United States. So you can take part in these.
The answer is this program, both programs are open to everybody in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, and the Victim Compensation Fund is available to anybody, anywhere. And there were people from every country who were killed that day and who got sick because they were working downtown or living downtown or going to one of the many schools downtown. So again, the theme of today seems to be spread the word, be each other's advocate.
Yeah, Nicole, Special Master, I was going to actually say to you, have you had instances of, say, undocumented workers or people who are not citizens of the United States who have gone through appeal processes and claims?
Yeah, we've definitely handled cases like that. We know there's, as in most folks in that description that you gave on that, undocumented and undocumented workers, undocumented people who lived in the area, as we know, they have concerns about coming to a governmental agency. It's understandable. Those descriptors for folks are actually meaningless to us. What we care about is that they can prove their identity, if they are able to, if they have to come to an appeal hearing, if they have some other, again, piece of evidence that somebody might have because of where they worked or where they lived. We look at all of those things, and we do not actually care if they're in that category, is the right word.
Thank you for covering that, because I was trying to think of a way to ask you that question about people coming to you that are concerned about coming to another government agency. With that said, how do you treat their compensation?
The same as everybody else's. And you have another hand.
Michael, with respect to what you're seeing with the survivor community and the awards that are coming out, what are some of the things that you're facing for either showing earnings or other areas that you're improving these days?
Well, so in addition to the non-economic loss component, which we've discussed a little bit about, which those awards range from anywhere from $10,000 or $20,000 for minor illnesses to up to $250,000 for one cancer. There's also a component of economic loss. But you have to prove that you're disabled, not from getting hit by a bus or a bike accident, but specifically from your 9/11 certified illness. And you know what, Matt, you always do such a great job preparing and asking questions. I'm going to ask you a question, one that is right up your alley as an ex-police officer, which is, you heard Nicole talking a little bit about...
John Miller's taking this question for you. 1992 and a 3-2.
No, I actually thought, you know, you're so great about preparing for this, and you do such a wonderful job moderating, so I felt like you should get one thrown at you as well. So you were you're a former cop.
Yes.
And you know that there are economic loss awards for people who are found disabled today if they get their pension reclassified. So why don't you speak a little bit about that? You heard Nicole talk about the fact that the age of disability has been extended for newly found disabled people, but people can be found disabled now. So go ahead.
Yes. So there are various ways that you can prove an economic loss in the pension. I'm going to say the pension community, because that includes FDNY, NYPD, NYSERS, sometimes Department of Corrections, other folks, NYSLRs, the state agencies, and you're not precluded because you had a prior, not necessarily precluded because you had a prior disability. So say you had a prior injury that's not cancer related and it's not 9/11 related. It is possible, not definite, that you can, if you were to reclassify pension because now you're disabled as a result of your cancer or 9/11 related illness, that, I'm going to see if I can say it safely, the VCF will consider, they'll consider looking at it. Did I get that right?
Every claim is calculated individually, and it's very individual specific. So I like to use the example, let's take Matt for example. He used to be a police officer. His buddy over there used to be a police officer. they were partners, right? They have the same conditions. Matt is able to still run marathons. His buddy is now on oxygen. They're gonna have a completely different award based on the severity of their conditions. Matt may have been able to work until 70. His buddy had to retire at 45. Again, they're gonna have very different lost earnings awards because of their individual circumstances. So we look at your claim specifically based on how your conditions impact your daily life, how your ability to work has been impacted based on your certified eligible 9/11 conditions, and we award loss accordingly.
Want to add anything to that?
No, I think you answered that very well. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, hi, yes. Who has the mic? All right, so my name is Michelle. I was one of the officers who've been involved with this for a long time with the City University of New York. I was able to be in the meeting yesterday to find out, because I was appointed commissioner in the Bronx for a force that's coming out, that there are 85 fusion centers in the U.S., right, and six regions. And they were able to centralize communications throughout the national registry, right, and a faster timeline than what we're having complications for organizationally in the Zagorda bill to getting the memo out to different organizations that were down there at ground zero. Team Rubicon has also central bases throughout the U.S. that can also collaborate with the 85 fusion centers, and CUNY can do it as well, as far as getting one centralized memo that's important for responders and survivors nationally and locally. Since NYPD was the original paternal department for getting this memo out to all the law enforcement agencies, and the City University of New York cut their umbilical cord to CUNY, right? Public Safety Department, which has 21 colleges, 24 colleges. The umbilical cord, right, that was cut left CUNY out there, for individual officers to turn around and get this information out within CUNY.
So if I could just cut.
Oh wait, hold on, wait.
No, if I could just.
20 years, that's all you've been doing.
Okay.
All right, wait, hold on, slow down for a minute.
You're talking about something that
Slow
now
down
crosses
for a
over
minute, let
into
me
what's called the
speak.
9/11 notice.
You know what?
Act, which is
I'm talking on the
the
behalf of my
state
department
regulation that
and
there's people
myself.
out there who
Wait
are
a
very
minute,
familiar
hold on
with.
for a second.
But you're talking about
All right,
getting
so
the
what's
information out to
happening
people,
is
which is the
they created
9/11
a
notice.
national registry,
Yep.
right? A national registry. And back in the days, they used to use phone banking and mailings to get the memo out, all right? And that's not what One Police Plaza has been doing. You know who's been doing it? It's Tuesday's Children Responder Alliance and several 9/11 organizations that had to be funded through philanthropists in order to get this information in regards to 9/11. Now, I can see how y'all was able to get FDNY and NYPD to go to retirement, but what about the other uniformed personnel that wound up coming in there locally and nationally? You know what I mean? What about all the nurses had to create their own inter-office thing? And what I don't understand too is why some of the public safety officers are being classified as, I don't know, we're survivors at CUNY. We're in an institutional Goliath, and there was no way in the world that and John Field had turned around and went into the New York City Retirement Association, right?
I was thrown out with him. No,
Yeah, well, I already know, please. And he went in there, all right? Yes, he did, heroically, all right? I know you was bodyguard.
You're both thrown out of there.
So what I
Police
understand,
escort, so, yeah.
I understand. He went in there to make sure that NYC was able to turn around and get, to get this, to realize this was very important. They're aware of the years and years and years that, that they need to get, and then they may have some CUNY, and but they in plain clothes, so I can't even tell. You know what I mean? But what happened is that some of us are not turning around and getting the mailing and the information internally. Let me speak about CUNY. and about regarding the situation here. So, and my family as landowners and free persons, because we were free from birth, though the CUNY is popping out FBI agents like popcorn. You know what I mean? We were FBI kids.
Right.
All right. Oh, hold on. And my dad was David, and he thought my 2 degrees would be Goliath. Hold on. But I'm trying to figure out what Goliath came after us. Well, anyway, in the meantime, which some of us are still here, my parents wanted to know why I was wearing hearts, talking about making a difference, and they weren't able to turn around and see that. All right. But I'm trying to get the kids to understand, you know, what it's about. And I shouldn't have to wait 20 years to do 2 questions. When Noah from Quinlan was at Queens College, he asked me, was he my turn? He's my turn. Is he my turn? So then I turned around and said, hold on. John Field turned around and said, I said, if you're not my attorney, then
you're hitting on an area.
Stop! Every time I ask a question, here it is. The bottom line is, World Trade Registry. Why is that national registry? Who has it, and who's doing the mailings and the phone calls to follow up on the registry? NYC's had to turn around and cut the umbilical cord from the national registry and make it their own registry from NYC's. Who is doing the registry?
I know the answer to that.
Okay.
So how about we, it's a little bit more
But you may have some people here from CUNY that may want to go on NYC's.
The registry is run by the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And so, and it's funded in part by the Mental Health Program. So I think that there's a little bit of confusion. I'm happy to go over and get to the right people to talk to. And then if there's somebody else that really feels that they need to have a little bit more, feel free to call me. And we'll sit down and chat right after.
And who's honoring the responders at CUNY before they go on the wall?
Steph, I wonder, could you two step
Yeah,
were there any other questions that you were?
Guys, no, I was going by the clock. Sorry. So one of the,
Hi, Matt. My name's Alan Grandy. I was September 11th first responder to the World Trade Center. We met. Excuse me. I deployed on the 14th and 6th. New York City Transit Authority.
Yep.
New York City Transit Authority has recently been recognized with the 9/11 Museum. On that being said, they have been doing, Local 100 has been doing a medallion recognizing injured in the line of duty personnel people recognized that were part of Local 100 New York City Transit Authority. This year they will be doing another one at the museum as well on September 18th. My question is for the panel, when you work for New York City Transit Authority, as other state agencies, I can only speak about who I work for. As working for New York City Transit Authority, there are provisions that are law that are in place when you're injured in the line of duty, death in the line of duty, and so many other issues. Medical monitoring, all that other stuff. My question is, when you're, as an example, killed in the line of duty, if you were hit by a train or any other issues like that, my question comes back to your family members would receive monetary awards based upon the end results, killed in the line of duty. But my question is, for the Victims' Compensation Fund, because I just, over lunch, received word from the person that I was going up last year, 2 years ago to Albany to speak on behalf of 2 bills that are still pending with New York City Transit Authority, 2 existing bills, injured in the line of duty, World Trade Center. The one person I went up to Albany to lobby on behalf of that just died. I just received that word over lunch, and this is what this whole entire community is dealing with. Transit Authority had 2 miles of trucks going in the aftermath. As I've always stated in the very beginning, once those buildings were hit, we were at war. My father served the United States Navy submarines. His submarine is USS Tacoma 319 down in Philadelphia. I'm a specific breed. A lot of Americans are really pissed off because of what's been going on. Excuse my English, but it's a very emotional point. My point being, when you work for New York City Transit Authority, you're killed in the line of duty, is there existing for the Victim Compensation Fund in that same capacity where you receive monetary awards? With all due respect to everybody on the board, everybody here, it's not about money. It is not about money. It's about a living American breed people waving the American flag. Black, white, American, Republican, Democrat, I don't care who you are, we bleed red. And this is what this country's turned into, and it is very emotional, very, very emotional thing. This community of people that we serve with, I always say that it was the worst of times, but the best of times. With all due respect, everybody that was there, all the September 11th first responders, live, breathe it, and say it all the time. I could best explain it to this way so maybe everybody can understand. What happens is, if you put on a movie, you flip the movie on, you flip the movie off. We can't flip the movie off. That movie goes round and round and round and round like a merry-go-round. I can do it because of my plumbing background. I'm very versatile in a lot of ways. I'm just saying that in the real world because this is what everybody's trying to convey over years and years and years, and this is embarrassing where as a country we are today. Whatever your political affiliation is, so be it. I'm an American. And what I'm saying to you is we are on the cusp of a lot of stuff going on right now, and if people do not understand what world we're in, this is going to happen again. And when this happens again, you're going to see the same quality people of same quality backgrounds do the same thing. And history has reported it, what's going on again in the world and environment we are. I work for the New York City Transit Authority. I can legally and not legally say some things that what goes on with where I worked. Professionally. That is my advice, and all I'm just trying to say is where we are today. What have you learned? When I watched all through the years interacting with personal, professional, and business people, everybody wants to prosper. This is what America is all about. And so how do you change something that can be very recognizably changed? Listen to the responders. Here's another one right here. Keith LeBeau, an iron worker. An iron worker. He has medical issues. As I just said earlier, my friend, who I will not recognize his name at this moment for privacy, I just learned a few hours ago. I would like to know, there's a wall on Long Island. How does somebody get their name on that wall? How is it recognized? There has been monumental people in this world that have moved mountains so people could live and learn from what these people have done. If you recognize everybody that has been there, you will recognize how to fix a lot of this.
Listen, you dragged me into that one. My wall on Long Island, there's MTA guys on that wall. So don't say how do you get him on that wall. You email me, you call me, you give me his name, I verify, he goes on wall. He doesn't meet my qualifications, he doesn't go on wall. Continue.
Is there anything else with respect to the Victim Compensation Fund that you'd like to ask us, Matt?
That was disrespectful.
How's that disrespectful? You said how to get on my wall.
I'm just asking a question. I'm asking
I'm right
a question.
Here. I'm right here.
I'm asking the panel a question.
Okay.
But this is a panel about the Victim Compensation Fund, not about the wall in Long Island. We're here to talk about the Victim Compensation Fund. We have the privilege of having the special master here, so I think our time is better spent discussing the Victim Compensation Fund.
Now, you bring up a very good point that has to do with New York City Transit, and the pension system in New York City Transit is not the same as the pension system in NYPD and FDNY. The percentages are different. So the terminology for the BCF is called collateral offset. when they project, and I'm going to let them answer the question, but when they're projecting an award for somebody who, say, makes, and I use round numbers because they're just nice and round, $100,000 per year, and that $100,000 a year is NYPD, or that $100,000 is New York City Transit, they can explain to you how they're looking at it when it comes to the percentage of the wrongful death benefit.
I was just being rhetorical.
Yep.
And I
No,
was
you have
trying-
a very real issue. You brought up many times.
I'm trying to, as a community of people, that have been in this world, how do you make this sad situation better? That's it.
Keep talking, that's what.
That's it.
They keep.
That's what we're trying to do here. And I have to interrupt because we have other people coming in here, but your points are valid. You have people in this room that are going to listen to you. That is our job. We've tried to point out to you that we all work together. So let's figure it out. This is not necessarily the place to figure it out. So you and I will have a conversation. I will find people.
Yeah, I need to
Can I say something more?
No, but there's nothing that you said that anyone up here can add to or do justice to. So thank you for, providing everyone genuinely, like our moral center. We agree with you.
I have no problem.
We agree with you.
Okay.
But
There's not, again, going back to this is not adversarial. This is, again, building a community. We have people here with resources. Let us think about it. Not
Okay,
just
fair
have
enough.
about
Excuse me.
something.
Excuse me.
Get to the answer.
But you brought up a good point. You're now introducing me.
Yep.
Because as a New York City Transit worker, you are in my system. So for people who get sick due to World Trade Center, people who get injured in transit not due to Trade Center, you're in my system. You're in the workers' comp system. So this is something I did want to say, so I'm going to take this opportunity.
Thank you for your time.
No, we're with you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for putting me on the spot. I'm
Go ahead.
going to close. I'm going to put closer now. Okay, so the comm system is the primary payer with respect to 9/11. The victim comm fund comes after us. We're the primary payer. So anyone who was, at this point in time, we're dealing with people who responded, rescue, recovery, cleanup, such as yourself. Okay, it's 23 years ago tomorrow. You need to file this form. Okay, it's one of the reasons I'm here. There's this simple form. Here are the directions. Would you be so kind? Thank you. Here's the form. It's real simple. I will give you one. Maybe even this one. It's a very simple form. On the front, what's your name, what's your address? On the back, there's a table. Where were you? What dates? What did you do? Well, when I'm done with it, I'll give it to you, I promise. And then, were you employed or were you a volunteer? And then you just sign it. We used to have you notarize it. You don't have to do that anymore.
Joe, can you point to the important date in the bottom left-hand corner of that?
Thank you, Matt, because I might have forgotten that. You have to file this by Friday, September 11, 2026. You have 2 years and a day, okay? You just sign it, file it, and what you've done then is you have preserved your right to file a comp claim, which has the medical care, the lost wages, and also there is a fatality benefit if the worst should happen. Okay, and so we're the primary payer, then you would take that information to the Victim Compensation Fund, you would share it with them, they know how to handle this, and you should be going to the World Trade Center health programs and getting the best care that you can. Thank you.
I see no other hands up. Thank you very much for everybody being up here. The panel, as every year, the panel is always available to folks. Afterward, everybody's contact information and names are in there. Outreach will be happening from both the health program and the VCF. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.